She thought the worst thing about betrayal was the lying. But sometimes, the worst thing is discovering you weren't the only one being lied to. What happens when the woman you're supposed to hate becomes the only person who truly understands your pain? This is the story of two wives, one husband, and a friendship born from the ashes of deception. Stay with me. The first sign wasn't lipstick on his collar or a strange perfume clinging to his shirts. It was the way Marcus started humming in the shower. Old songs from before they met, melodies that belonged to a version of him she'd never known. Sophia. Martinez had been married for 8 years, and she knew her husband's rhythms like a familiar song. The way he stirred his coffee counterclockwise exactly 12 times, how he always checked his phone twice before bed, the particular silence he carried when work stressed him out. But this was different. This was a lightness that felt foreign, almost guilty. She stood in their pristine kitchen that Tuesday morning, watching him butter his toast with unusual care, and felt something cold settle in her stomach. Marcus was a creature of habit. Rushed breakfasts, quick kisses, always running late. Today, he was taking his time, almost savoring the moment. "You seem happy," she said, testing the words. He looked up, and for just a second, she caught something in his dark eyes. A flicker of panic, quickly smoothed over with his practiced smile. Marcus was handsome in that reliable way that made other wives envious. Tall, broad-shouldered, with graying temples that made him look distinguished rather than old. The kind of man who looked good in family photos. Can't a man be happy to see his beautiful wife? He reached across their granite island to touch her hand. His wedding ring caught the morning light. Sophia was 34, with long black hair that she wore in a neat bun for her job at the accounting firm, and warm brown eyes that had always been too trusting. Her Colombian grandmother used to say, she had the kind of face that made people want to confess their secrets. Today, she wished that were true. "Of course," she said. But the cold feeling remained. That evening, Marcus came home with flowers, not the grocery store bouquet he usually grabbed on special occasions, but expensive white roses arranged with baby's breath, the kind of flowers you give when you're trying to say something without words. "What's the occasion?" Sophia asked, accepting the bouquet with a smile that felt like a mask. "Do I need an occasion to spoil my wife?" But as she arranged the roses in a vase, she noticed something that made her hands still. A small piece of tape on the cellophane wrapper, the kind florists use to attach cards. The card was gone, but the tape remained. A tiny, telling detail that suggested these flowers had been meant for someone else first. That night, as Marcus slept beside her, Sophia stared at the ceiling and felt the first crack appear in the foundation of her world. It was a hairline fracture, barely visible, but she could feel it spreading. The next morning, she did something she'd never done in 8 years of marriage. She checked his phone. Her hands trembled as she entered his passcode, their anniversary date, which felt like a cruel irony now. The phone unlocked easily, and for a moment, she almost put it back down. Almost chose ignorance over truth. But then she saw the text thread labeled M with a heart emoji. "Last night was perfect. I can't stop thinking about you. The kids loved the park. Thank you for making us feel like a real family. I know this is complicated, but I'm falling for you, Marcus. Hard." The phone slipped from Sophia's fingers, clattering onto the bathroom tile. Kids. The other woman had kids, and Marcus was playing father to them while Sophia had been trying for 3 years to get pregnant, enduring fertility treatments and monthly disappointments that left her feeling broken and inadequate. She picked up the phone with shaking hands and scrolled further back. Months of messages. Photos of Marcus with a woman Sophia didn't recognize. Petite, blonde, laughing at something he'd said. Pictures of him pushing children on swings, helping a little boy with homework, reading bedtime stories to a girl who couldn't be more than 5. The woman's name was Melissa Chen, and from the messages it was clear this wasn't just an affair. It was a whole other life. Sophia sat on the cold bathroom floor, still in her pajamas, and felt her world reshape itself around this new, terrible knowledge. The humming in the shower, the flowers meant for someone else, the way he'd been working late more often, the weekend business trips that had become routine. How long had she been living with a stranger? She heard Marcus stirring in the bedroom and quickly deleted the evidence of her snooping, her heart hammering against her ribs. When he appeared in the bathroom doorway, hair tousled from sleep, she managed to smile. "Morning, beautiful," he said, kissing her forehead like he had every morning for 8 years. "Morning," she whispered, and tasted the lie on her tongue. That day at work, Sophia couldn't concentrate. Numbers blurred on her computer screen as her mind raced with questions. How could she have been so blind? What kind of woman was Melissa? Chen? Did she know about Sophia, or was she being deceived too? By lunch, Sophia had made a decision that would have seemed impossible 24 hours earlier. She was going to find out everything. The investigation began small. Innocent Google searches during her lunch break. Melissa Chen, it turned out, was a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital. Divorced according to her sparse social media presence. Mother to 2 children, Emma, age 7, and Tyler, age 5. Sophia stared at the profile photo. Melissa laughing with her children at what looked like a beach vacation. She was pretty in an understated way, with kind eyes and a genuine smile. Not the homewrecker Sophia had imagined, but a woman who looked like she baked cookies and volunteered at school fundraisers. A woman who looked like she deserved better than being someone's secret. That evening, Sophia watched Marcus more carefully. The way he checked his phone when he thought she wasn't looking. How he'd started showering immediately when he came home, washing away traces of his other life. The new cologne he claimed was a gift from a client. "How was your day?" she asked over dinner, the same question she'd asked thousands of times before. "Busy," he said, cutting his steak with surgical precision. "Lots of meetings." "With anyone? Interesting?" His hand paused for just a moment. "Just the usual suspects." Sophia nodded and took another bite, chewing slowly to keep from screaming. The usual suspects. As if his double life was just another business transaction. That night, she lay awake planning her next move. She needed more than text messages and social media profiles. She needed proof. She needed to understand the scope of his betrayal. She needed to meet Melissa Chen. The opportunity came sooner than expected. While Marcus was in the shower the next morning, his phone buzzed with a text from M. "Soccer practice at Riverside Park, 4 p.m. Tyler's so excited you might make it. Sophia." Memorized the details and deleted the message, her heart pounding with a mixture of terror and determination. She was about to cross a line she could never uncross. At 3:45 p.m., she sat in her car across from Riverside Park, watching children in bright jerseys run across the grass. She spotted Melissa immediately. The blonde hair, the gentle way she cheered from the sidelines, the little girl beside her who must be Emma. And then she saw Marcus. He jogged onto the field like he belonged there, scooping up a small boy who squealed with delight. Tyler. Marcus spun him around, both of them laughing. And Sophia felt something inside her chest crack open. This wasn't just an affair. This was a family. A family where Marcus was the father she'd been begging him to become with her. She watched him ruffle Tyler's hair, watched him kiss Melissa's cheek with casual intimacy, watched him help Emma with her homework on the bleachers. He looked happy. Genuinely, completely happy in a way she hadn't seen in years. Sophia gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. She'd come here for evidence, but what she'd found was something far more devastating. The realization that her husband wasn't just cheating on her. He was choosing someone else. Every single day. As the practice ended and families began to disperse, Sophia made a decision that surprised even her. Instead of driving away, instead of confronting Marcus, She got out of her car and walked toward the woman who was unknowingly sharing her husband. It was time for the truth. All of it. Sophia's legs felt unsteady as she crossed the parking lot, her heart hammering so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. Melissa was loading soccer equipment into the back of a silver Honda, while Emma and Tyler argued over who got to carry the water bottles. "Excuse me," Sophia called out, her voice sounding foreign to her own ears. Melissa turned, and up close, Sophia could see the exhaustion around her eyes, the kind that came from working long shifts and raising 2 children alone. She was smaller than she'd appeared in photos, maybe 5'4", with shoulder-length blonde hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her scrubs were visible under her jacket. She must have come straight from the hospital. "Yes?" Melissa's voice was cautious but polite, the way you speak to strangers in parking lots. Sophia had rehearsed this moment during the drive over, but now, faced with this woman who looked so normal, so kind, all her prepared words evaporated. "I'm Sophia Martinez," she said finally. "I think we need to talk." The name clearly meant nothing to Melissa, but something in Sophia's tone made her step closer, instinctively moving between Sophia and her children. About what? About Marcus. The color drained from Melissa's face so quickly that Sophia almost reached out to steady her. For a long moment, they stared at each other across the space between their 2 worlds. And Sophia saw the exact moment when understanding dawned in Melissa's green eyes. "Oh, God," Melissa whispered. "You're his wife," Sophia finished. "His wife of 8 years. Melissa's hand flew to her mouth, and Sophia watched her do the same terrible math she'd done days earlier. The timeline, the lies, the scope of the deception. "Mom?" Emma appeared at Melissa's side, tugging on her jacket. "Who's this lady?" Just someone Mommy needs to talk to, sweetheart," Melissa managed, her voice shaking. "Can you and Tyler wait in the car for a minute?" As the children climbed into the Honda, Melissa turned back to Sophia with tears in her eyes. "I didn't know," she said urgently. "I swear to God, I didn't know he was married." Sophia studied her face, looking for deception, but found only raw shock and growing horror. "How long?" she asked. 10 months. Melissa's voice was barely audible. "He said he was divorced. He said his ex-wife lived in another state, and they barely spoke because it was too painful. 10 months. Sophia felt the number hit her like a physical blow, not a momentary lapse in judgment, not a midlife crisis that got out of hand. 10 months of deliberate, calculated lies to both of them. "He told me you were bitter about the divorce," Melissa continued, tears now flowing freely. "That you'd turned his friends against him. That's why he had to start over. I felt sorry for him." Sophia almost laughed at the cruel irony. "He told me he was working late, business trips. I've been trying to get pregnant for 3 years, going through fertility treatments while he was playing house with you and your children." Melissa's face crumpled. "Oh my God. Tyler calls him almost daddy. He's been asking when Marcus is going to move in with us permanently." They stood there in the parking lot, 2 women who'd been loving the same man, both of them realizing they'd been loving a lie. "I need to sit down," Melissa said, leaning against her car. I can't process this." Sophia looked at this woman, this other woman who was supposed to be her enemy, and felt something unexpected. Sympathy. Melissa wasn't a homewrecker. She was another victim. "Where did you think he went?" Sophia asked. "When he wasn't with you?" "Work trips. He's in sales. He said he traveled a lot. Sometimes he'd be gone for days, but he'd call every night." Melissa wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "He has an apartment across town. Says it's temporary until he finds something bigger for all of us." Sophia's stomach twisted. "That's our house. He lives with me." Jesus Christ. Melissa looked like she might be sick. What kind of person does this? What kind of person builds 2 entire lives? Someone who thinks he can have everything, Sophia said, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. Someone who thinks we're both too stupid to figure it out. Inside the car, Tyler was making faces at them through the window, oblivious to the fact that his world was about to shatter. Emma was reading a book, her dark hair falling across her face in a way that reminded Sophia painfully of herself at that age. "What are you going to do?" Melissa asked. Sophia had been asking herself the same question for days. The old Sophia would have confronted Marcus privately, would have tried to save her marriage, would have blamed the other woman. But standing here, looking at Melissa's devastated face, she felt something new crystallizing inside her. "I don't know yet," she said. "But I think the question is, what are we going to do?" Melissa looked up sharply. "We?" "He's been lying to both of us, playing us both for fools, making us both believe we weren't enough." Sophia's voice grew stronger with each word. "I spent 3 years thinking I was failing as a wife because I couldn't give him children. You've been raising your kids to love a man who was never really available to them." "I can't believe this is happening," Melissa said, but Sophia could see something shifting in her expression. The shock was giving way to anger. "How often does he see you?" Sophia asked. 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. Weekends when he doesn't have work obligations. Sophia did the math. "He tells me he works late Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Weekend business trips twice a month." "Monday, Wednesday, Friday," Melissa repeated slowly. "That's when he's with us." They looked at each other, and Sophia saw her own realization reflected in Melissa's eyes. Marcus had scheduled them, like appointments, like they were both just items on his calendar. "He gave me a key to his apartment last month," Melissa said, quietly. "Said he wanted me to feel like it was home." "What apartment?" "On Maple Street. The complex with the blue awnings." Sophia knew the place. It was 15 minutes from their house. "He doesn't have an apartment. He's never had an apartment." Melissa's face went white. "Then whose key is this?" She pulled a silver key from her purse, holding it like it might bite her. Sophia stared at the key, her mind racing. "I think," she said slowly, "we need to find out." 20 minutes later, they were standing outside apartment 3B in the Maple Street complex. Melissa's children safely deposited with her neighbor, under the pretense of an emergency at work. The key turned easily in the lock. The apartment was small, but furnished. A 1-bedroom with a kitchenette and a living room that looked like it had been decorated by someone with no personal attachment to the space. Generic furniture, no photos, nothing that spoke of a real life being lived there. But there were traces of both of them everywhere. Sophia found her favorite coffee mug in the kitchen cabinet, the one that had gone missing from their house months ago. Melissa discovered a sweater she'd been looking for hanging in the bedroom closet. "He brings us here," Melissa said, her voice hollow. "When he wants to... when we..." Sophia nodded, understanding. This was where Marcus brought them when he wanted to play house without the complications of their real lives. A neutral space where he could be whoever he needed to be. In the bedroom dresser, they found more evidence of his double life. 2 sets of everything: cologne, deodorant, even different styles of clothing. Casual clothes for his life with Melissa and the children. Business attire for his life with Sophia. "Look at this," Melissa said from the bathroom. She was holding 2 toothbrushes, one pink, one blue. Sophia felt a laugh bubble up from somewhere dark and bitter. "He color-coded us." "This is insane," Melissa said, but she was looking around the apartment with new eyes. "This whole place is like a staging area." "For his performances," Sophia agreed. "Husband and father with you, devoted spouse with me." They spent an hour going through the apartment, finding more evidence of Marcus's careful compartmentalization. A calendar on the refrigerator with coded entries: S for Sophia days, M for Melissa days. A drawer full of receipts for duplicate purchases, 2 phone chargers, 2 sets of keys. "He's been planning this," Sophia said, holding up a notebook filled with what looked like scheduling notes. "This isn't some affair that got out of hand. This is systematic." Melissa was sitting on the couch, staring at a photo she'd found, tucked behind a lamp. A picture of her and the kids at the zoo, with Marcus's arm around her shoulders. "He asked me to marry him last week," she said quietly. Sophia felt the world tilt. "What?" "He said he wanted to make it official, that he was ready to be a real family." Melissa's voice was flat, emotionless. "I said yes." Sophia sank into the chair, across from her. "He asked me to renew our vows next month. Said he wanted to recommit to our marriage." They stared at each other across the coffee table, and Sophia saw her own devastation reflected in Melissa's face. He hadn't just been lying to them. He'd been planning to marry them both. "What kind of person does this?" Melissa whispered. "Someone who thinks he's smarter than everyone else," Sophia said. "Someone who thinks he can manipulate us forever." "I have to tell the kids," Melissa said, her voice breaking. "Tyler's been asking when Marcus is going to adopt him officially." Emma made him a Father's Day card. Sophia watched this woman, this stranger who'd become the most important person in her world in the span of 2 hours, and felt something fierce and protective rise in her chest. "No," she said. "What?" "You don't have to tell them anything. Yet. We don't have to do anything yet." Sophia leaned forward, her mind working faster than it had in years. "He thinks he's so clever, keeping us separated, keeping us ignorant. But now we know." "Know what?" "Everything. His schedule, his lies, his plans." Sophia felt a smile that had nothing to do with happiness spread across her face. "He has no idea. We've met. No idea we've figured it out." Melissa was looking at her with something that might have been hope. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting," Sophia said, "that Marcus has been playing a very complicated game. And now it's our turn to play." Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the apartment that had been the stage for so many of Marcus's performances. Tomorrow, he would come home to Sophia with flowers and apologies for working late. Tomorrow, he would text Melissa about weekend plans with the children. But tomorrow, for the first time in 10 months, Marcus wouldn't be the only one with secrets. Sophia looked at Melissa, really looked at her, and saw not her rival, but her ally. They'd both been betrayed, both been manipulated, both been made to feel like they weren't enough. But together, they were more than enough. They were dangerous. The plan took shape over coffee at a diner neither of them had ever been to before. Neutral territory, like everything else in their strange new alliance. Sophia had called in sick to work, and Melissa had traded shifts with another nurse. They had 48 hours before Marcus would expect to see either of them again. "He's supposed to take Tyler to his baseball game Saturday," Melissa said, stirring sugar into her coffee with mechanical precision. "He promised he'd be there this time." "Saturday is our anniversary dinner," Sophia replied. 8 years. He made reservations at Chez Laurent, the place where he proposed. They looked at each other across the scratched Formica table, and Sophia saw her own grim determination reflected in Melissa's eyes. Marcus had scheduled their destruction for the same weekend he planned to celebrate with both of them. "So what do we do?" Melissa asked. Sophia had been thinking about this all night, lying awake while Marcus slept peacefully beside her, probably dreaming about his perfect double life. "We give him exactly what he wants," she said, "both of us, at the same time." The beauty of the plan was its simplicity. Marcus thought he was so clever with his scheduling, his compartmentalization, his careful management of their separate worlds. But his greatest strength would become his greatest weakness. They spent the morning at the apartment on Maple Street, going through Marcus's things with the methodical precision of archaeologists. Every receipt, every note, every piece of evidence of his deception. Sophia photographed everything while Melissa made copies of his calendar and scheduling notes. "Look at this," Melissa said, holding up a small notebook. "He's got backup plans for everything. What to say if we call when he's with the other one. Excuses for why he can't answer his phone. Even fake business trips planned out months in advance." Sophia felt a cold admiration for the scope of his planning. "He's been thinking about this for years. This isn't something that just happened. He designed this life." "The apartment lease is in a fake name," Melissa said, reading through the paperwork they'd found in a filing cabinet. "Marcus Thompson. He's been using it for 2 years. 2 years. Before he'd even met Melissa." Sophia realized with growing horror that Marcus hadn't just been planning to cheat. He'd been planning to live multiple lives from the beginning. "He was always going to do this," she said quietly. "To me, to you, to whoever came after us." "What? Do you mean whoever comes after us?" Sophia showed her the dating app on Marcus's tablet, the one they'd found hidden in the bedroom dresser. "He's got profiles on 3 different sites, all using the Marcus Thompson identity." Melissa's face went white as she scrolled through the messages. "He's been talking to other women, even while he was with both of us. He's collecting us," Sophia said, the full scope of Marcus's pathology becoming clear. "Like trophies. We're not people to him. We're just acquisitions." They worked in silence for a while, documenting everything, building their case. But Sophia could see that Melissa was struggling with something deeper than anger. "The kids love him," Melissa said finally. "Tyler asks about him every day. Emma drew a picture of our family with Marcus in it. How do I explain to them that the man they think of as a father is a lie?" Sophia thought about her own losses. The 3 years of fertility treatments, the monthly disappointments, the way she'd blamed herself for not being enough to make Marcus want children with her. All while he was playing father to Tyler and Emma. "We don't just hurt him," Sophia said. "We protect them, and any other women he might target." "How?" "By making sure everyone knows exactly who Marcus really is." Saturday arrived gray and drizzly, the kind of weather that made everything feel ominous. Sophia spent the morning getting ready for their anniversary dinner, choosing her outfit with the same care a general might choose weapons for battle. The black dress Marcus had bought her for her birthday, the pearls that had been his grandmother's. She wanted to look like the perfect wife one last time. At 3 p.m., she texted Marcus, "Can't wait for tonight. I have a surprise for you." His response came quickly. "Me too, beautiful. See you at 7. At the same time, Melissa was getting Tyler ready for his baseball game, helping him into his uniform while Emma practiced her cheers on the sidelines. Marcus had promised to be there by 4 p.m. At 3:45, Melissa texted him, "Tyler's so excited you're coming. He's been talking about it all week. Wouldn't miss it for the world. See you soon." Sophia arrived at Chez Laurent at 6:45, early enough to speak with the maitre d' and make a special request. The restaurant was elegant in that understated way that spoke of old money and older traditions. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, the kind of place where proposals happened and anniversaries were celebrated. Marcus arrived precisely at 7, looking handsome in his navy suit, carrying a small velvet box that made Sophia's stomach clench. He kissed her cheek, and she caught the scent of his cologne, the expensive one he wore for special occasions. "You look beautiful," he said, and she could hear the genuine affection in his voice. That was the most disturbing part. He really did love her, in his own compartmentalized way. "Thank you," she said, accepting the box with steady hands. Inside was a diamond bracelet, delicate and expensive. "Marcus, it's gorgeous. 8 years," he said, taking her hand across the table. "And I fall in love with you more every day." Sophia smiled and let him fasten the bracelet around her wrist, the diamonds catching the candlelight. "I have a surprise for you too," she said. "But it's not here yet." At that same moment, 20 minutes across town, Marcus was also arriving at Tyler's baseball game. Melissa watched him jog across the field, his face lighting up when Tyler spotted him and waved frantically from the dugout. "Daddy Marcus," Tyler called out, and Sophia could see Marcus's chest swell with pride. He kissed Melissa hello, ruffled Emma's hair, and settled onto the bleachers like he belonged there. Like this was his real life, his real family. "I'm so glad you made it," Melissa said, and meant it. She needed him here for what came next. Back at the restaurant, Marcus was telling Sophia about his day. A carefully edited version that omitted any mention of baseball games or children or the woman who was falling in love with him 20 minutes away. "I've been thinking about us a lot lately," he said, reaching across the table to take her hand. "About our future." "Oh?" Sophia kept her voice light, interested. "I know we've been trying to have a baby, and I know it's been hard. But I want you to know that you're enough for me, Sophia. You've always been enough." The words hit her like a physical blow, not because they were cruel, but because they were kind. This was Marcus at his most dangerous, when he was being genuinely loving, genuinely present. It would have been easier if he'd been a monster. "That means everything to me," she said, and part of her meant it. At 7:30, Sophia's phone buzzed, with a text from Melissa. "In position." Sophia excused herself to the restroom and sent back, "Ready when you are." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. At 7:45, Melissa would leave the baseball game with an emergency, a call from the hospital, requiring her immediate attention. She would ask Marcus to watch the children, giving him a key to her house and instructions to put them to bed if she was late. At 8 cow, Sophia would suggest they continue their anniversary celebration at home, where she had champagne waiting. 8:30, they would converge. Sophia returned to the table to find Marcus checking his phone with a slight frown. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Just work," he said, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. Melissa's emergency call had come through right on schedule. "Actually," Sophia said, "I was thinking we could skip dessert here. I have champagne at home, and I want to give you your real present." Marcus's eyes lit up with interest, and something else. Relief, maybe, that he could escape to handle his other crisis. That sounds perfect. They left the restaurant at 8:15. Marcus's hand warm on the small of Sophia's back as he guided her to his car. He was already mentally shifting gears, she could tell, preparing for the transition from husband to boyfriend, from anniversary dinner to emergency babysitting. "I might have to step out for a bit later," he said as they drove through the familiar streets toward their house. "Work emergency." "Of course," Sophia said. "I understand." At 8:25, Marcus pulled into their driveway, and Sophia felt her heart rate spike. In 5 minutes, everything would change. There would be no going back, no pretending, no more carefully maintained lies. "I love you," Marcus said as they walked to the front door, and Sophia realized with a shock that he meant it. In his twisted way, he really did love her. "I love you too," she replied. And that was the last lie she would ever tell him. Inside, Sophia poured champagne while Marcus loosened his tie, settling into the comfortable rhythm of their shared life. He was checking his phone more frequently, now probably getting updates from Melissa about the children. "So," he said, accepting the champagne flute, "what's this surprise you've been promising?" Sophia smiled and raised her glass. "To 8 years of marriage," she said, "and to finally meeting all of your family." Marcus's face went blank with confusion. "What do you mean?" The doorbell rang. Sophia set down her champagne and walked to the front door, her heart hammering but her hands steady. Through the peephole, she could see Melissa standing on the porch, Tyler and Emma flanking her like small soldiers. "Sophia?" Marcus's voice behind her was sharp with confusion and growing alarm. "Who is that?" Sophia opened the door. "Hello, Marcus," Melissa said, her voice calm and clear. "The kids wanted to see where Daddy Marcus lives." Tyler pushed past his mother, his eyes wide with excitement. "Wow, this house is huge. Is this where we're going to live when you and Mommy get married?" Emma hung back, suddenly shy. But her eyes were taking in everything. The family photos on the hallway table, the wedding picture prominently displayed, the life that Marcus had never told them about. Sophia turned to look at her husband and watched 8 years of lies crumble in real time across his face. He stood frozen in the living room, champagne, flute still in his hand, his mouth opening and closing like a fish pulled from water. "Marcus," Sophia said, her voice carrying clearly through the sudden silence. "I'd like you to meet Melissa Chen and her children, Tyler and Emma. Though I believe you already know each other. Daddy Marcus." Tyler's voice was small and confused. "Who's that lady? Why does she have pictures with you?" And in that moment, watching her husband's carefully constructed world collapse around him, Sophia felt something she hadn't expected. Peace. The truth, finally, was out. The silence stretched for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Marcus stood in their living room like a statue, his face cycling through emotions too quickly to track. Shock, panic, calculation, and finally, a desperate attempt at damage control. "Sophia, I can explain," he started, but Tyler's voice cut through his words. "Mommy, why is Daddy Marcus wearing a wedding ring? You said his mean ex-wife took everything." Emma had found the wedding photos on the side table and was studying them with the intense focus only children possessed. "Mommy, this lady is wearing a white dress like yours in the picture at home. Are they both married to Daddy Marcus?" Melissa knelt down to her children's level, her voice gentle but firm. "Tyler, Emma, I need you to go wait in the car for a few minutes while the grown-ups talk, okay? But I want to see the house. Car. Now." There was steel beneath Melissa's calm tone, and both children recognized it. They filed out reluctantly, Tyler casting confused glances back at Marcus. When the door closed behind them, the 3 adults stood in a triangle of devastation. 8 years of marriage and 10 months of love reduced to this moment of terrible clarity. "How long have you known?" Marcus asked finally, his voice hoarse. "Long enough," Sophia replied. "Long enough to find your apartment. Long enough to see your calendar. Long enough to realize that we're not the only ones." She pulled out her phone and showed him the screenshots of his dating profiles, the messages. To other women, the evidence of a pattern that went far beyond just the two of them. Marcus's face went gray. "Sophia, please let me explain." "Explain what?" Melissa's voice was quiet, but deadly. "Explain how you asked me to marry you while you were already married. Explain how you let my children fall in love with you while you were planning to abandon them." "I wasn't going to abandon anyone," Marcus said. And Sophia could see him shifting into the mode she knew so well. The smooth talker, the problem solver, the man who believed he could charm his way out of anything. "I was trying to figure out how to make it work for everyone." "Make it work?" Sophia felt a laugh bubble up from somewhere dark and bitter. "You were planning to commit bigamy, Marcus. You were going to marry both of us." "I love you both," he said desperately. "I know that sounds impossible, but it's true. I love you, Sophia. I've loved you for 8 years. And I love Melissa and the kids. I didn't plan for this to happen, but when it did, I couldn't choose." "So you chose to lie to everyone instead," Melissa said. "You chose to make my children love a man who was never really available to them. You chose to let Sophia blame herself for not getting pregnant while you were playing father to other people's kids." Marcus flinched as if she'd slapped him. "It wasn't supposed to hurt anyone." "But it did hurt us," Sophia said quietly. "It hurt us every single day. Every time you came home late, Every time you checked your phone and smiled at messages we couldn't. See, every time you made us feel like we weren't enough. You are enough, Marcus said, reaching toward her. Both of you are enough. That's why I couldn't let either of you go. Sophia stepped back from his outstretched hand. We're not possessions, Marcus. We're not things you get to collect and keep in separate boxes. I know that. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. We can figure something out. No, Melissa said firmly. We can't, because this isn't just about us anymore. She gestured toward the door where her children waited. Tyler asked me last week when you were going to adopt him. Emma made you a Father's Day card. They love you, and you've been lying to them their entire relationship with you. I can explain to them. Explain what? That Daddy Marcus has another family? That everything they thought they knew about their life was a lie? Melissa's voice broke slightly. They're 7 and 5 years old, Marcus. They don't understand compartmentalization and emotional manipulation. They just know that the man they trusted broke their world. Sophia watched her husband. This man she'd loved for 8 years, this stranger she'd been living with, and felt the last of her anger drain away, replaced by something sadder and more final. I used to think the worst part was the lying, she said, but it's not. The worst part is that you really don't understand what you've done to us. Marcus looked between them, and Sophia could see him finally beginning to grasp that his charm wouldn't work this time, that there was no explanation that would make this okay. What do you want from me? He asked. Sophia and Melissa exchanged a look. They'd discussed this part too. We want you to leave, Sophia said. Tonight. Pack a bag and go to your apartment or a hotel or wherever you want. But you don't get to sleep in our bed anymore. And we want you to stay away from my children, Melissa added. No more games, no more promises you can't keep. They've been hurt enough. You can't keep me from seeing Tyler and Emma, Marcus said, a flash of his old arrogance returning. I've been a father to them. You've been a lie to them, Melissa cut him off. And you have no legal rights to children who aren't yours. If you try to contact them, if you show up at their school or their games, I'll file a restraining order. Marcus looked like he might argue, but something in Melissa's expression stopped him. Sophia recognized the look. It was the same steel she'd found in herself over the past few days. What about us? Marcus asked Sophia. 8 years, Sophia. That has to mean something. It does mean something, Sophia said softly. It means I know who you really are now, and I know I deserve better. She pulled off her wedding ring, the diamond solitaire he'd given her in this same house 8 years ago, and set it on the coffee table between them. I'll file for divorce on Monday, she said. You can contest it if you want, but I have enough evidence to make things very unpleasant for you. Marcus stared at the ring like it was a snake that might bite him. Sophia, please, don't do this. We can go to counseling. We can work through this. There's nothing to work through, Sophia said. This isn't a marriage that hit a rough patch. This is a fraud that finally got exposed. Outside, a car horn honked. Tyler, probably getting impatient in the car. I should go, Melissa said. The kids need dinner, and they need me to help them understand what just happened. She looked at Marcus one last time, and Sophia saw something like pity in her expression. I really did love you, she said quietly. The version of you that I thought was real. I'm sorry that person doesn't actually exist. After Melissa left, Sophia and Marcus stood in their living room, the room where they'd hosted dinner parties and watched movies and planned their future together, and felt the weight of 8 years settling around them like dust. I never meant for this to happen, Marcus said finally. I know, Sophia replied. And she did know. That was the tragedy of it. Marcus wasn't evil, just selfish and weak, and convinced that he could have everything without consequences. I do love you, I know that too, but love isn't enough when it comes with lies. Marcus packed a bag while Sophia sat in the kitchen, drinking the champagne they'd opened for their anniversary. It tasted bitter now, like everything else about their life together. When he came downstairs with his suitcase, he paused in the doorway. "What will you tell people?" he asked. "The truth," Sophia said. "All of it." He nodded and walked toward the door, then stopped. "For what it's worth, I really was trying to figure out how to make everyone happy." "That was your mistake," Sophia said. "You can't make everyone happy by lying to everyone." After he left, Sophia sat alone in the house that had been their home, surrounded by the detritus of their shared life. Wedding photos and anniversary gifts, and the champagne flutes they'd used to toast their future. Her phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. "Are you okay?" Sophia considered the question. Was she okay? Her marriage was over. Her husband was gone. Everything she'd thought she knew about her life had been revealed as an elaborate fiction. But for the first time in months, she wasn't wondering where Marcus was or who he was with. She wasn't checking his phone or analyzing his behavior for signs of deception. She wasn't blaming herself for not being enough. "I think I will be," she texted back. "The kids are asking about you. Tyler wants to know if you're sad that Daddy Marcus was lying to you too." Sophia smiled despite everything. "Tell him I'm sad about the lying, but I'm glad we found out the truth. Want to get coffee tomorrow? I think we both have a lot to figure out." Sophia looked around the empty house, at the life she'd have to rebuild from scratch, and felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Possibility. "I'd like that," she replied. 3 months later, Sophia was signing the final divorce papers when her lawyer mentioned something that made her pause. "There's been some unusual activity on your ex-husband's credit report," he said. "Multiple apartment leases under different names. It looks like he's been doing this for years, possibly with other women." Sophia wasn't surprised. She and Melissa had suspected as much, and they'd been quietly documenting everything they could find. They'd even started a private Facebook group for women who'd been involved with Marcus, and the stories that emerged painted a picture of a man who'd been running elaborate cons for most of his adult life. "We're considering a class action suit," Sophia told her lawyer. "Fraud, emotional distress, maybe more." "That's ambitious." "We're ambitious women," Sophia said, thinking of Melissa, who'd gone back to school to become a nurse practitioner, and of the other women they'd found, teachers, and accountants and artists who'd all been made to feel like they weren't enough. That evening, Sophia met Melissa at their usual coffee shop, a little place downtown that had become their unofficial headquarters for rebuilding their lives. "How are the kids?" Sophia asked. "Better," Melissa said. "Tyler's stopped asking when. Marcus is coming back. Emma's been drawing pictures of our family again, but now it's just the 3 of us. That's progress. What about you? How's the new job?" Sophia had left the accounting firm and started her own practice, specializing in financial planning for women going through divorce. It was satisfying work, helping other women untangle their lives from men who'd tried to control them through money and deception. "Good," Sophia said. "Busy. I have 3 new clients this week, all referrals from the support group." They'd started the support group 2 months ago, a weekly meeting for women who'd been victims of romantic fraud. It had grown from just the 2 of them to nearly 20 women, all sharing their stories and helping each other heal. "I have news," Melissa said, and Sophia could hear excitement in her voice. "I got the promotion. Nurse manager, pediatric ICU." Melissa: "That's amazing." Sophia reached across the table to squeeze her friend's hand. "You deserve it." "I couldn't have done it without you," Melissa said. "Without this. Without learning that I'm stronger than I thought I was." Sophia looked at this woman who'd started as her rival and become her closest friend, and felt grateful for the strange path that had brought them together. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd never found out?" Melissa asked. Sophia considered the question. Sometimes. But then I think about Tyler asking when Marcus was going to adopt him, and you planning a wedding to a married man, and me blaming myself for not getting pregnant. And I think we're better off with the truth. Even though it hurt. Especially because it hurt. The truth is supposed to hurt sometimes. That's how you know it's real. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the evening crowd filter through the coffee shop. Couples on dates, friends catching up, people living their real lives without elaborate deceptions. "I have a confession," Melissa said. "Finally." "What?" "I used to hate you. Before I met you, when I thought you were just the bitter ex-wife who was making Marcus's life difficult. I used to think you were the reason he couldn't fully commit to us." Sophia laughed. "I used to imagine you as this perfect woman who had everything I couldn't give him. I thought you were the reason he didn't want children with me. We were both wrong. We were both victims." Melissa nodded. "But we're not victims anymore." Sophia's phone buzzed with a text from her sister. "Dinner Sunday? I want to hear about your date." The date. Sophia had almost forgotten. A colleague had set her up with a friend of hers, a divorced father who taught high school history and coached Little League. They'd had coffee the week before, and he'd asked her to dinner. "I have a date tomorrow night," Sophia said. "The teacher?" "Yeah, I'm nervous." "Good nervous or bad nervous?" Sophia thought about it. "Good nervous, I think. He seems uncomplicated." "Uncomplicated is underrated," Melissa said. "I'm thinking about trying online dating again." "Really?" "Really. But this time, I'm going to ask a lot more questions up front. Like, are you currently married to someone else? And do you have any secret apartments?" They both laughed, and Sophia marveled at their ability to find humor in their shared trauma. It had taken months to get to this point. Months of therapy, and tears, and slowly learning to trust their own instincts again. "We should probably add those to the support group guidelines," Sophia said. "Red flags to watch for." "I'll make a list," Melissa said. Right after, if he has 2 phones, run. As they prepared to leave, Melissa hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you think we would have been friends if we'd met under normal circumstances?" Sophia considered the question seriously. They were very different people. Melissa was more outgoing, more trusting, quicker to forgive. Sophia was more cautious, more analytical, slower to open up. Under normal circumstances, they might have been friendly acquaintances at best. "I don't know," Sophia said honestly. "But I'm glad we'll never have to find out, because the friendship we have now, the one that was forged in crisis and built on truth, that's something special." "It is," Melissa agreed. "It really is." 6 months after that night when their worlds collided in Sophia's living room, both women had built new lives from the ashes of their old ones. Sophia's divorce was final, her business was thriving, and she was cautiously optimistic about her relationship with David, the history teacher who called when he said he would and had never once made her feel like she wasn't enough. Melissa had been promoted again and was considering buying a house, something she'd never thought she could afford as a single mother. Tyler had joined a new baseball team and rarely mentioned Marcus anymore. Emma was taking art classes and had started drawing pictures of their future house, complete with a garden and a dog. They still met for coffee every week, still ran their support group, still helped other women navigate the aftermath of romantic fraud. They'd become advocates, speaking at conferences about financial abuse and emotional manipulation. But more than that, they'd become proof that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can also be the best thing. If you're brave enough to face the truth and strong enough to rebuild. On a warm evening in late spring, almost a year after everything changed, Sophia was watering the garden she'd planted in her backyard when her phone rang. It was Melissa. "Turn on Channel 7, Melissa said without preamble. Sophia went inside and found the remote, flipping to the local news. There was Marcus, being led away in handcuffs, his face carefully blank as reporters shouted questions. "Arrested today on charges of fraud and bigamy," the reporter was saying. Investigators say Martinez may have been involved with as many as 6 women simultaneously, using false identities and elaborate schemes to maintain multiple relationships. Sophia watched her ex-husband disappear into a police car and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no sadness. Just a distant sense of closure. "How do you feel?" Melissa asked. "Free," Sophia said, and meant it. That night, Sophia sat in her garden with a glass of wine, surrounded by the flowers she'd planted and the life she'd built with her own hands. Her phone buzzed with messages from friends and family who'd seen the news, all asking if she was okay. She was more than okay. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. The truth had set her free. And for the first time in years, Sophia Martinez was living her own life. Not the life someone else had designed for her. Not the life she thought she was supposed to want, but the life that was authentically, completely hers. It was a good life. It was a real life. It was enough.